This patient has a big space. We will proceed with a final setup to determine the tooth movement value in advance. Adjust mandibular tooth height and axis. In the maxilla, adjust the axis and the amount of overbite. As a result of the final setup, we will proceed without IPR since it corresponds to the amount of overlap of the amount of overcorrection. Let's start setup with layers. When moving mesiodistal, you can get an aesthetic improvement by adjusting the tip rather than bodily movement. Adjust the mesial movement and axis by adjusting the tips of maxillary number 22 and 23. The amount of rotation is also applied to the other layers. In layer 2, we finish the rotation and evenly distribute the space between the teeth. We will narrow the space gap with a lateral incisor by applying minus torque to the maxillary central incisor. Layer 3 is the pre-retraction stage. The goal is to position all teeth on the ideal arch line. Whenever you add a layer, you need to compare and check the amount of movement with the previous layer. In layer 4, we will proceed with retraction by space closing. Adjust gingival protrusion by applying torque to the root. Since rotational motion, such as tip motion, is possible only when sufficient space is secured, you need to edit the previous layers. Since the gap between the teeth is large, we will proceed with retraction by adding a layer. Apply overcorrection to make the retraction more forceful. Check overbite and overjet. Divide the steps after measuring the amount of movement using the superimpose function. In layer 1, tooth number 23 and 43 are the teeth that have moved the most. Divide the steps based on this. Since the patient's periodontal condition is not good, we will use hard sheets only, and we will divide the amount of movement per step less. In layer 2, tooth number 21 and 41 are the teeth that have moved the most. Divide the steps based on this. In layer 3, tooth number 11 and 41 are the teeth that have moved the most. Divide the steps based on this. In layer 4, tooth number 21 and 41 are the teeth that have moved the most. Divide the steps based on this. In layer 5, tooth number 11 and 41 are the teeth that have moved the most. Divide the steps based on this. Finally, check the number of aligners through Show All Steps function.